Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Ete with another episode of The Company Next Door. I am still here in Virginia. It is a dark, gloomy, and a rainy kind of day for us today, but we're not going to let that stop us. We're going to have a good time, and I've got a woman here who's done some really cool stuff and excited to talk about her journey and her company. And so here we are this is Deborah Wilds.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come. And
Well, thank you for having me.
as you can see, we're in the salon. And let me tell you a little bit about how we connected. So just a few days ago, as you know, I'm on the road, and I was getting froey. My hair was starting to fro out. My wife's like, you got to cut your hair. So I kind of drove around this little town. It's a small town. There's not a whole lot, a lot of shops. There's a cool downtown area. And I saw this place. And it kind of looked interesting, so I called. They got me in half an hour later after I called.
Yeah.
And I think it was your daughter. Did she?
Right.
Okay. And anyway, and so I came in, but as I was coming up the front door, if you can see it or not, I could hear some laughing, and I could hear a woman just kind of like talking, laughing. Like it sounded like a fun place. I was like, this is where I want to be. So anyway, I came in, and she's the one that was making all the noise.
Yeah.
Also the one that does the hair. And so as she was cutting my hair, we kind of got to talking, and she's been in business for over 40 years.
Yes.
And so on top of everything that she's created here, I just thought that was incredible. That's not very common. She's seen a lot of ups, a lot of downs.
Yes.
in the economy. I'm sure she's seen a lot of changes in this town.
Yes.
And so anyway, so here we are. I asked her if we could come in, and it's Monday. The salon's closed on Mondays.
Right.
And that's a standard, right?
For our salon, most salons are closed on Mondays because we do everything on the weekend, big weekends.
Sure.
But we're closed Monday and Wednesday because when I first started, we had a barber in here on Wednesday.
Okay.
And so that was his day.
Gotcha.
So he's since retired. He did 51 years, and he said, I got 10 years to go before I can stop.
All right, so you got another 10 years or 9 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, cool. So you kept Mondays off. So it is, like I said, it's pouring out there, but we're inside and we're warm for the minute. So anyway, so here we are. So I want to start right there because I know you originally came from upstate New York.
Yes.
Where were you in New York?
We were just a little ways away from Corning, New York.
Okay.
My family still lives there. My mother and father were born there.
Okay.
And my father traveled. He actually he came down here when 95 by VCU, the bridge was built. He built roads and bridges all the way from, all the way up and down the East Coast, from Virginia to upstate New York. And so he mostly was gone on the week, and he came in on the weekends.
Okay.
And so he decided that he was going to bring his family here, and because he was working here for a long term, and he picked our house. We never seen it, and I was 16 years old, and we came in in the middle of the night, and I thought, oh Lord, he has ruined my life because there's nothing but woods, and I'm just like, oh my God, this cannot be happening. And we unloaded, we got to the house, it was probably about 11 o'clock, and he pulled out the mattresses. We slept on the floor, and he said, get up, kids, you're going to school. And I was like, good Lord, we haven't even, had a chance to turn around. So my mother, she took all of us to our prospective schools. I was the only one that went to a different school. So I went to the high school, and the first day that I got there, when it was time to go home, I missed my bus. And I was like, oh Lord, I don't even know my address.
You don't even know where you are.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm living. And so I was like, does that bus come back? And they were like, no, that bus is gone.
It's a one way.
Yeah, but they were like, they didn't know. They were the first bus in line, and they didn't know that I was new and would be riding the bus. So when all of his passengers came, he just left. And so I started crying, and I was like, I will never find my house. And so Mrs. Trice, because back then the roads were like Route 2 or Route 1,
Yeah.
and, they didn't have a big post office thing like they do now. And she literally took me, and we drove the bus route. And when I saw my brothers and sisters out in the front yard,
You
I
knew
was
it
like,
was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, jackpot, I'm home. And my mother was like, oh my God. I mean, because she was like, well, when does Debbie come home?
Yeah.
And nobody knew. And so it was quite terrifying, but
So that was your introduction to
that
this
was
town.
my introduction
So
to this town.
was it called Goochland at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Goochland, Virginia.
Goochland, Virginia.
Okay, and has it grown since you've been here? Or because it's a really interesting,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of a weird layout. I say weird because out west, it's very like they build on a grid system.
Right.
100, 200, 300. And so it's kind of, you know where things are.
Right.
Here, I just kind of drive in circles until I find what I'm looking for.
Right. Well, that's like I said, back then it was like Route 1 or Route 2, it didn't have like exact house numbers. You
Yeah.
just were on a route.
Gotcha.
And so just when I first started out, I started out at Maiden's, and that was hooked on to a store that, I'm going to tell my age now, but it's kind of like, Petticoat Junction, kind of the little general store with, we have nails and we got Carhartt and we got boots and they were butchers and whatever. And so when I started out there, the community was families. It was more families. It just, we had 3 or 4 names, and my first bit of advice that people gave me when I first opened was, don't talk about anybody because everybody is related.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of how I started, and it's just when I moved up here on the strip.
The strip,
Yeah,
yeah.
per se. Then they created another strip. So, I've never been on the actual place of being, but I've always, because I know they always say location, location, location.
Yeah.
But I've been real successful. They, at first I don't think people were really open to letting outsiders into Goochland because it was very, like I said, very
tight-knit
family and very
yeah.
knit family. But I've been okay. They've I integrated into the community from school and church, and I've been blessed. I really have, because that has the community accepted me,
Sure.
I guess. And but the thing that I like now about Goochland, we don't all look alike.
Yeah.
And
it's a little diversity.
yes, because we also have taught karate for 20 years for Goochland Rec, and our community is looking different. And when I first started, you didn't see a whole lot of difference, and I feel like our salons were, and I think they still are to some extent. There's still some segregation, and our churches are still somewhat segregated. But I think that we're working on that, and but that's, I think, small community too.
Yeah.
So you're just used to going with your families.
Right.
And your family created the church.
Gotcha,
It's like
yeah.
little churches that families created, and that's kind of how that community things did. But we have really worked hard on integrating and bringing people in and trying to tell them we're open for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of break down those barriers and just say, this is just a place. Whoever needs to get their hair,
Yeah.
I'm here to do your hair.
Yeah.
So you came as a teenager, and you're, totally a kind of a culture shock in some ways to the small
Yes.
little town. And like we've talked about, and we'll talk more about, you've been here for a long time, and the business has done well, and you've been blessed, and the community sounds like it's really integrated. It's worked well
Yes.
for you. When your family came, do you remember why your dad decided to come here? Because it sounds like he was doing up and down the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's such a random place.
Well, when you live in upstate New York, you only work 6 months out of the year if you work outside because
Snow.
So he's always traveled, and and most of the time my mother was at home with 5 kids, so it wasn't really easy just to grade us and just pull us off in a different direction every time he moved.
Gotcha.
So he did the work. He usually would have a little place off on the side during the week, and then he would come home on Friday night and leave on Sunday afternoon.
Gotcha.
And I have a brother that kind of lives that lifestyle too, that he builds cell phone towers and does that. But it's just the way our life was.
It's just what it was.
I just remember from probably when I was around middle school, he really started traveling a lot.
Gotcha.
And so it's
Just kind of brought you here.
yeah.
So when you were a kid and coming here, did you have a love for hair? Did you want to go to school for hair, or what was your plan as a teenager?
Oh yeah, I was always
Really?
I was always that girl. I remember.
Were you a little girl doing Barbie dolls and hair?
Well, I was always that girl that. Well, first of all, I'm almost 6 foot, so I already stood out. But I was always that girl that pushed the envelope with the makeup, pushed the envelope with the hair, like adding a ponytail to my hair that I already had, cutting my friend's hair, and of course cutting my family's hair. When you have 5 kids, then and I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
But I didn't have beautiful scissors like I have now. I cut with them big orange scissors. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And and then I would do like the neighbors and give perms. And see, I come from a family. My grandmother was a hairdresser, and
okay.
my aunt was a hairdresser, and
Okay.
and we work with our hands.
Yeah.
My dad, like I said, he worked with his hands. He was a carpenter, and
Gotcha.
and all my siblings, we all are similar in that aspect.
So, because a lot of people, one of my sisters is a hairstylist. I've known many hairstylists around the country, and a lot of them have a vision to one day own their own place. But I find that very few actually do.
Right.
So, what's the difference? How did you get to be in this situation where you weren't just a stylist for someone else? Did you start out for someone else?
No, I came right out of beauty school. I think I was just too ignorant. I was so young and
Confident. How about that?
Yeah. Okay, I'll use that. But I didn't know that I could fail. I just, when you're
it.
20 years,
Yeah.
19, 20 years old, you feel like you can do anything and nobody's going to stop you. And, I remember telling people I was going to school and through church and stuff, and they were like, well, you should probably go down to this little salon, because at the time there were people working in their homes, but I don't really think that there were anybody that was in a specific shop.
Gotcha.
And like I said, I worked off from the A.G. Smith Company. They had a little place there that they had also built for this barber, Bill the Barber. And he also worked at the Commonwealth Club. So at the time, I didn't know. They just said, go down there. And so I was like, okay. So I asked, I talked to Mason, who owned, it was a father and son's organization, okay? And it'd been around, 100 years. And
Wow.
so I went down and I asked Mason, I was like, I think I'd like to work here, and I would like, I want to be a hairdresser here. And so, it was just a little room. I swear to God, it was probably 10 by 10. And the action that happened in that room was just amazing. I don't even know.
It could have been one of those TV shows, huh?
Yes, it really could have. And so he said, well, let me think about it. He goes home, he talks to his daughters, who I had gone to school with. And he had asked them if they knew me. And they were like, yeah. And one of them said, yeah, she's in the band with me. And so he came back and he said, my daughter plays in the band with you. And I was like, yeah, I know. And he said, well, she says that you're good. So because I played in the band, he offered me to come to work. I could get any product or do anything
Wow.
that I needed, and that we would do a 50-50 split for however long that I wanted to do it. So he just said, go to the beauty supply store and pick up whatever it is you need. Like at that time, I needed a hairdryer, that you sit under, and some color, and he gave me 13 names out of his either church or the people that had been coming to his store for a long time.
Okay.
And I literally sat down on the phone and I called him and I said, Can you give me a chance? I'm Debbie Wilds and I'm new and I just started, and Mason gave me your name, and I'd just like for you to give me one chance.
Just cold calling, basically.
Just cold calling. And
were you scared to do that, or were you so
I just
you didn't care?
no, well,
You wanted,
I cared.
I mean, you weren't worried about it. You just, that's what
I'm
you had
telling
to do.
you,
Yeah.
I think that when you are young like that, and I, I think sometimes like some people when they come out of the salon, out of the schools teach you kind of like just how to pass the test, but not everybody in school has natural talent, you know,
for sure.
and I feel like maybe I might have been born to do this. So, it's just something that came natural to me, and it was easy for me to do. But I had no idea about business.
Sure.
So, one of the guys that I cut his hair, he was the CPA, and he said, Debbie, get a book and write down everything that comes in and everything that comes out. And I literally had a cigar box for my money. So I'm not kidding. It was really it was ghetto. It really was. I'm just going to let you know. And, we just, and so people would come in, and at that time, 79, 80, people weren't using Visa and MasterCard and stuff. It was a lot of checks, and so they'd just write me a check or give me cash, and I'd just have a little cash box, and if I didn't have enough, I'd go over to the store and ask them to cash out a 20 or whatever, and they'd come back in, and I'd give them their change. So a funny story about that, my kids always hung out at the shop with me after school or whatever, but this was a Saturday, and Kendall, my little girl, she was probably about 6 or 7, and the man gave me a 20, and, I gave him his change, and she said, hey, don't take all my mom's money. We're going to King's Dominion tomorrow.
Theme park.
The theme park. Yeah. And so, she just saw one bill coming in, and I gave him more bills than he gave me.
Yeah,
so
she thought she was getting cheated.
Yeah, she was like, nope. I got to have some money because we got to go to King's Dominion tomorrow for, so.
That's funny. Let me ask you this real quick. So you're painting this picture of like kind of an old school way of doing business.
Oh, yeah.
The cigar box, the cash, going across your... You've done that, and now you're doing it, and you can see, the fancy cash registers, the apps, the Venmo. Before I forget, is one better than the other? What's it? I mean, you've done it both. Because from a young person, you go, oh, this is so much better in 2020. Do you feel that way?
Sometimes technology just drives me nuts because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you open a cigar box and you give me a 20 and I give you back $2, that works. Yeah. But these, it won't connect to the internet. Then you got to pull something else out, get the square and put that in and run it, or, it does get a little crazy at times. But my son and daughter, so part of this is my daughter went to ODU and came back to work with me. And
what's ODU?
ODU is a college.
Okay.
Down by Virginia Beach.
Okay.
So she got her business and marketing minor.
Gotcha.
Okay, so she came back, and at the time that the other side of the salon, it was a flower shop. So the lady was getting ready to close the flower shop, and she said, I want to come back to work with you, much probably to the dismay of the rest of the family, because they were like, go big, she was the only girl. But when she was in 11th grade during the summer, I put her through nail school. So when she did go to college, she would have a job that would pay her to be able to take care of herself. And she worked with a mother-daughter team on the peninsula in Virginia Beach, and she loved it. And so she is this. She came back.
She's your tech.
She's my
Gotcha.
tech girl.
Gotcha.
She's my, okay, Mom, get out, let's move into the 21st century. Things are much better. We need to do this.
Yeah.
So she pushes me, and I just keep learning new things. So
Is she a full-time? Is she a partner? What's her role?
no, she's my manager, and she
Okay.
is full time.
Gotcha.
So, and when she first came back, all she could do was nails, because that's the only thing she had. She had a
Right.
nail license and a waxing license, and she was managing. And she was at the time, I had 4 other girls in here, and I told her, I was like, it's going to be hard. Like if something happened to me and you had to take the shop over or whatever, it's going to be really hard for you to manage hairdressers, because they have kind of a strong personality anyway. It's like, oh, no nail tech is going to be managing me.
Yeah.
So I said, I think I think you need to get your full license. And I'm a apprenticeship instructor.
Okay.
So I took her under apprenticeship her first year after she got out of college, and she got her full license to do hair. And when she came back, we did the other side over there. That's our spa side. It's got the nails and all of that stuff, and this side is the hair. But when we first started, we had a little corner up here, because all we had was this space.
You didn't have both sides.
No.
Yeah.
And you see how big it is. We
Yeah.
had the tanning bed in that area. We had chairs here. And up here, Kendall had this little mobile nail thing going
Gotcha.
on. And we made it work,
Yeah.
because, like I said, when I was down at Maiden's, it was like a 10 by 10, and I sold balloons, and I just did everything. And I just said, as long as I've got ceiling space, I can sell it, And so I would line the balloons up along the side, and when you would lay back in the chair, it was like, look for your balloons. I'd make little signs on the ceiling, and
Just anything, huh?
yeah, and they were like, Mom, so yeah, it helped that she came.
Yeah.
Probably, she upgraded, but people loved it. And when we moved up here and everything was so much more spaced out, because there we were just in a little corner if you were waiting or you were getting your hair. So it was just kind of like everybody would just talk. It was like a little community meeting place. And if you didn't know them, then people would just bring you right into the conversation. So, so we were trying to kind of like, spread it out. So when we just have the conversation with the people in our chair, but a lot of my clients, they still like to just gather, and talk. And this shop is just, when you come here, it's like, I want you to meet your neighbors. I want you to feel comfortable, and I want you to have fun. And I always tell them, I was like, you pay me, and it's a whole lot better than paying a psychiatrist, because, and, so if they come in burdened, I really do. I just try to lighten their load and listen to them. Whatever it is that they need, then we talk about it.
That's
And,
awesome.
it's fun. I just want it to be fun.
I love that. So let me ask you a question on that, because there's so many, like Barbershop the movie, right?
Right.
And it's interesting, but there's like as we're talking, and I never thought of this before, because this is my first time sitting down with the salon. You're kind of a hub.
We are.
And you're kind of the community. I guess there's so much history.
Yeah.
That and like I was thinking now of the stories that you have heard. I mean, I can't fathom, because like you said, that's what you do, and people go to get their hair done to talk to you.
Yes.
And so you've acknowledged that, and you've kind of tried to foster and create that atmosphere.
Right.
You almost are like a town historian in a sense. I mean, I can't imagine all the stories. Is it?
Yeah, everybody's like, Debbie, you should just write a book, And my son, who lives in Northern Virginia and is a pastor, that's what he wants to do. He wants to write a book based on a salon and pastor kind of thing, because I always say this is kind of like my church. People come in hurting, and I try to love on them. It's a little harder with COVID because you can't really touch them. But, I've had people come in that have cancer, and I bring them in at night or whatever, and I pray with them, and we get in a little group and we pray over them, and we cut all their hair off. And Kendall and some of the girls have been in here at the time, and they were like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I want to cut my hair off too.
Wow.
It's just, you just become so involved in their lives. And I always try to step out of this and even carry it into the outside of this. Like if they need a wig, I don't send them alone. I try to go with them and help them pick it out and then bring them back. And it's just like a real culture of care. I feel like that's my gift, and I know that God has sent people here to just sit in my chair one time just to hear a word of encouragement.
Wow.
And they will say, I know I was supposed to be here today. And I would be like, yeah. And so I'm real bold. If I feel like somebody needs
to hear something,
you'll say it. I will say it. And I've had my share of difficulties in life, and I'm real transparent with people. So they feel like they're comfortable enough to tell me whatever. And
Let me ask you this, because you brought up God in this conversation, and that sometimes our conversations go that way. Sometimes they don't. Some people run their business. They'll tell me, I pray about things I do. Mm-hmm. Some people don't. Do you try to run your business with
faith?
I guess God and faith. Like, does that play a part in your in how you built this? And do you think that's part of the reason why you've been able to succeed for over 40 years?
Yeah. I think so, because, I think God has given me the gift of, probably he's given me the gift of gab. And
it's a gift, though.
Yeah. And he's given me the gift of nurturing and caring for people. And, and I always tell girls when I'm training them, I was like, not every hairdresser is a great hairdresser, but they still have people in their chair. And that's because they've made a connection with that person. This business is about making a connection with people.
Yes.
I can be the best hairdresser, but if you sit in my chair and we don't have a connection together, you're more than likely not coming back.
Not going to come back.
Yeah. So, and when I first started, it hurt. It hurt me when people left and went someplace else. But I realize now as I've grown, and, it's about maybe we just didn't make the connection, or it just wasn't meant to be. And that's kind of how I try to look at it. I try not to take it so personally. I'm human, so
sure.
It does hurt on some level, but I try to work through that and let it go. So
let me ask you this. So you're talking about connection, and it sounds like what I'm hearing is that's an important part of the way you run business.
Yes.
Is if you can connect with the client that comes in or the new person,
yes,
you build a relationship, and
yes,
then you foster that over time.
Yes.
And I know you've said you've had clients for over 30 years or something. 40 or
I've had people that came in from the beginning. Yes.
That's crazy. So let me ask you this: when people, like, if someone were to walk through that door right now that you've never seen, mm-hmm, what does that look like? You trying to connect? So what's the thought process that goes in?
Well, you walk through the door.
Yeah. So what?
So
pull
how
back
did
the
you
curtain.
feel?
Well,
and I just,
how did you see me? Pull back the curtain. What was going on in your brain?
So when you came in, I knew you were new. Yeah. And so I took you, and we automatically started talking. So you did a little banter back and forth. Yeah. You were like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you do? And, we're like, how many kids you got? And, it's always about, you can always conversate about kids, the weather. I always tell them, if they're over 40, you can always ask them, you talk about gas, you can talk about weather, you can talk about anything like that, because old people love to talk about the weather and gas.
I don't know why.
And so it just is, it's, and I have a girl currently that came, and then she left, and then she came back again, and she's gonna get her license. But the first thing I told her, I was like, you have to be able to talk to people. And I knew her mother. She was just like 17 years old. And, she came and got her hair cut, but Kendall did it. And so I didn't really, have a good, good connection or whatever. But her mother was just like, da 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 da, and she works in the post office. And so when she came in, I was like, you got to be able to talk. And her mother was like, "Er?" And I was like, what? She doesn't talk? And she goes, no. So I literally, and she will tell you this to the day, I literally made her stand at the door, and everybody that came in and was like, how are you? How's the weather?
Yeah.
And when she shampooed, I gave her, clues. I was like, you have to be able to learn how to connect to people. And now, she's great. And she's like, you did that to me.
Yeah.
Because, I know that this business, you can't be shy. You kind of got to be,
right.
You kind of have to be out there. And, a lot of people call me sassy because when I first started, that was what I named my shop, was Sassy Snips. And so, that's what they call me. They call me sassy because, I've always got something going on with me or mine or, some kind of shenanigans. That's just kind of my personality. I was class clown in Goochland High School, 1979. Just so you know.
Yeah.
So
You can do the math.
I can do the you can do the math, and I don't think that left me. So, but that's what I want. I want people to come here, and some people come and they want to be quiet and not hear anything, and that's okay too. They tend to drift to Kendall, and because Kendall is a little bit less out there than I am.
Okay.
She's got the skills, and but she may not be as loud. When I was down at Maiden's, there was a railroad track, and George Smith used to tell me that he could hear me over the railroad tracks, so over the train coming. So,
That's funny.
But I grew up with 5 people, 5 kids, and my dad, he, lost hearing from his job, and so everything was always loud. So, I think we just learned to talk loud so we could be heard.
Yeah.
So. We're just all loud.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So when you came here and you've been doing it, and we've talked about, now it's over 40 years, what has been the highlight for you when you look back over 4 decades of work? What's the thing that you just go, you know what, I'm really proud about this or this moment? Or
I'm proud that the people that I cut their hair, like I may have gave somebody their first haircut, and even if they don't live around here, they bring their kid to get their first haircut. Or, my son obviously is a pastor, and he has moved in different communities. And when he goes, the scissors travel. And so I've picked up a whole lot of friends in different areas, and people have traveled 3-4 hours and come to get a haircut. And I know it's not about the haircut. I know it's
you. It's spending
about
that time.
the relationship. And, I do feel like I give a good haircut, but, I think it's about the relationship. And like I said, people have traveled. I have this one guy that no matter where he lived, he traveled. He was in sales, and his mother and father lived in the community here, and so he would come back every time he needed a haircut. He never had a haircut from anybody else. Wow. And when he started at A.G. Smith, and he was out putting Cokes in the little Coke machine out there, and I was like, you really need a haircut. You probably should come on in and let me do it. And he was really, really shy at first. And so he came in, and I cut his hair, and that was it. So no matter what, and every job that he went to get, he knew he had always got a haircut before his job. So he never jinxed his job. He always came in before his job and got a haircut.
That's awesome.
And one day he looked at me, because he's now settled in Goochland. It's about an hour and a half away. And he's like, I really love you, but I don't have any more hair left. You know, he was just like, I probably could just take care of what a little bit I have on my
Yeah.
own. I don't really need to drive an hour and a half anymore. And I was like, I get it. And, you know, we see each other on Facebook and everything.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
still have that connection. But, you know, I just cut him till he ran out of hair. So,
That's awesome. You can be around that long to
Yeah.
do that. What has been one of the harder moments over the last 4 decades when you thought, man, I'm going to throw the towel in? Has there been any really challenging times?
well, I think when I was about 30, you know, because I've been at this point cutting hair, you know, 10 years. And like I said, I just, at one point I thought I wanted to be a model. And, you know, so I did that a couple of times, but I was just so self-conscious at that point, and you cannot be self-conscious and be a model.
Nope,
you know.
doesn't work.
It does
Doesn't
not
work.
work. I was, you know, I'm just this little country girl, and they threw me in the middle of just stuff I've never seen before, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work for me. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of funny situation. My daughter is, you know, now modeling, and she just got put on a cover in France.
Wow.
And a 10-page fold out. So, you know,
That's
it
awesome.
maybe wasn't meant for me, but it was meant for
Your
her.
daughter, yeah, yeah.
And so, but I went to school. I thought, you know, maybe there's something else out there for me. And I was kind of conflicted. And at that time, it was shampoo sets. So I knew at 9 o'clock, so-and-so was coming. At 10 o'clock, you know, every 15 minutes, somebody was coming in.
Gotcha.
You know, and they would get their hair done the exact same way. And not that it wasn't good and I couldn't do it. I think it was just so monotonous that I thought, maybe I'm supposed to be somebody else, because this maybe just fell in my lap and I was, you know, I just took it on, but maybe I could do something else. And so I decided to go to college because nobody in my family in my immediate family, had ever gone to college. And the women, you know, most of them didn't even work. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I signed up for J. Sargent Reynolds, and, you know, I was left Goochland. I was going into Richmond, and the closer I got, the more stoplights it was. And every stoplight, I was like hyperventilating, going, what the heck am I doing? And I was like, I can't do this. And as I got closer and closer, I was like, I just sat in the car and I was like, okay, Debbie, you can do this. You can walk in there with these young kids, and, you know, you can go to school. And it was really intimidating to me. But once I got over the threshold, everything was fine. You know, it was okay. It just was the newness of it and everything. And so, you know, you have to take those little personality tests that tell you, you know, who you are and what kind of a person you are and maybe what you should do in life. And so I did it, and she gave it back to me, and it was like 98.8% you should be a hairstylist. And I was like, well,
No way.
dang on that. Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
And the other one that came in right underneath that was a personal trainer. And so there I was. I am a hairstylist. I am a black belt teaching karate, and before karate I taught, you know, slimnastics and to all the people, and I did the same thing with them. I just call them up on the phone and said, hey, I am, you know, going to teach a class at 7 o'clock. Do you want to come? And, you know, that's kind of how I work. I did do cold calls. And so while I was in college, I met this girl that was the same age as I was, and we decided to do a business together. So not only was I doing this, I also was selling clothes and jewelry to 45 other beauty salons in the area. So that kind of was my, I'm still in the atmosphere, but I'm doing something different. And, but it you know, it wasn't that I didn't like it. It just got crazy. You know, Kendall was in middle school and Cameron was in elementary school. And, you know, Kendall was in that age that it could be real tedious, whichever way you go. She needed
Sure.
a parent.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
do need a parent at that time. And Mark was traveling. So we kind of had a powwow. And we both decided to, I dissolved the other business. We sold it. We didn't lose anything because I sold stuff in here and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
went out and sold it. We just, we just kind of did it on the thing to get our money back.
Sure.
And so we didn't lose any money. And Mark quit his job and came back and found another job that was local. And and then I moved up here from down there.
Gotcha.
And I decided, I was like,
Put all your focus on this.
I put all my focus here. I kind of felt at that point, I was like, Deb, what are you doing? Because you're just making a big mess out of everything when God has already given you this.
Yeah.
And, he's giving you a home. He's giving you a place to work. And you're just, you're muddling it. So focus. And so, I didn't finish school. I had like 2 or 3 more courses, and I was like, I'm already here.
Yeah, you took
I'm
the
here.
test. You're doing it.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I graduated from the cigar box. I learned how to do, accounting just a wee bit better, and which I could have just taken a couple of classes and done that, But it was a period that I think I had to do to kind of figure out and just realize that this is who I am.
Sometimes
and I have been given a purpose.
And sometimes we have to go down the wrong road a little bit, only to turn back and say we were on the right road already.
We were, yeah.
And every entrepreneur, every small business person I met with, they call it the shiny light syndrome. There's always these other ideas that distract us.
Yes.
And I'm very guilty of that. And sometimes we can do it, and sometimes we're just supposed to focus on the thing that pays the bills.
Right. And
the bread and the butter.
And I tend to be like that.
Yeah.
And I think
over.
entrepreneurs do.
Yeah.
They constantly have something in their head
Yeah.
all the time. Like even my son, who's a pastor, like he's got that entrepreneur
Spirit.
thing. Yeah,
energy,
he definitely does. So when he first started, his church, he was going to Duke University to get his master's, and he did a thrift store. And then the next store, he did pub theology. He actually went to.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what pub theology is?
No.
So
Sounds like I should.
Yes, you should. Pub theology is that he went to an actual. What do you call those new places now where they do craft beer?
A brewery?
Yeah, he
Kind of
went.
a
Yeah,
artist,
like
yeah.
It was a personal brewery,
Okay.
up in Collinsville, and every Thursday night he would have pub theology. So they would come in, they would get a beer, and they would have a Jesus lesson.
Gotcha. Okay. Pub and theology combined. That makes sense. If someone came in the store right now and said, "Hey, I want to start a business. Do you have any advice for me?" What would you say?
Sure. First of all, you have to know that it's not a 9 to 5. Having a business is 24/7. It does not go away.
Yes, it doesn't.
At all.
Yeah.
And to me, that probably has been one of the hardest things on my family, even though they're all kind of like me in that aspect of, building and doing whatever. It was a contention point in our family at times. It's like, can't you just leave it, someplace? And no, you really can't, because you're outside and, you go to the store and, well, I love my hair, or, I didn't like my hair. And I have a funny story because I had a girl in here shampooing, and she just was filling in, and she went to the bank, and when she was in the bank line, somebody knocked on her window and was like, she rolled it down, and she was like, I don't really like my perm. And she was just filling in for the shampoo girl. I mean, she didn't have anything. And she was like, what are you telling me for? And I was just like, you just don't ever get away from it.
Yeah,
you know?
you can't escape it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you stand in line and people are like, are you a hairdresser? And I was like, yeah. Well, what would you do to my hair?
Yeah.
So that part is a really tough part. If you are not willing, this is like a baby, you know, and I've kind of come to a point in my life that I'm 61. And so it's not like I'm thinking about, you know, what am I going to do? Like I'm at 20, I need to figure out what happens if my body fails me. What happens if, you know, I'm at that point where I have to start thinking about the other end,
Yeah.
not the beginning end.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you know, so that would be the one thing that I would tell them,
That's
that
a
it's
great
that
piece
it's
of
life,
advice.
that it's a life-changing thing, and you better hope that your husband's on board. You
Yeah.
better hope your family's on board, because it is like a baby.
Yeah.
It is just like another child.
Yeah, it doesn't go away.
It does not go away. And then I would just say, you have to get out of your box. You can't stay in a box and be a business owner. I think, you know, you have to be able to think outside the box, and you have to be able to deal with people that think outside the box and think differently than you. Because it's about customer service, and not everybody thinks like you. So you're going to have to be able to accept other people's ideas and work with it or whatever. So, you know, those are just some of the things I would say.
Those are great. And that's, you know, I'm a small business owner as well. And I tell everyone, like, the pressure, if you can handle that pressure where all the weight falls on you, and it just doesn't go away. Like you said,
connect with COVID.
Yeah.
That was awful. I mean, it was absolutely awful.
Were you shut down?
Oh yeah, 2 months.
That's crazy.
And I didn't have all these screens. I didn't have all of this. I mean, we had to get a storage unit, and we pulled everything out of here we had to come back in and make sure that everything was 6 foot apart, and we had screens. And at the time, you couldn't get it. You couldn't get the screens. You couldn't get the PPE. You couldn't. It wasn't available. And I just remember when the governor was like, "Okay, you can go back to work." I thought, the responsibility of my community is on my shoulders, and it was really heavy to carry, because not only could they bring it into me, because, you know, I have health issues, and I had been locked up inside my house for two months without seeing anybody, going anywhere, and then all of a sudden I just get to go and see
people.
I was like, how's that gonna work?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was really scary. And, you know, I had to keep thinking about, well, how do I do this? And, you know, we would put screens around the people that were getting their hair blow dried or whatever. So, you know, thinking that it might not come out of, the air might not come out if it was,
Gotcha.
you know, just
Did the government,
different thing.
when they shut you down, they said you can open up, but here's all the little stipulations?
Yes.
Did they say specifically this is how you do it?
No.
Or so you had to get creative again, back to
Yes.
that break out of the box. You had to come up with solutions.
Yes.
For a worldwide pandemic. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and you know, and it was me that had to do it. You know, I had to come up with ideas about how to make my customers feel safe, and you know, and then a lot of it, you know, you're face to face anyway, like, you know, men with beards and stuff like that, and you know, there were no talk zones, and I still, you know, it's no talking.
Yeah.
Don't, if that mask comes off, you're not allowed to talk. Sure. Or whatever. And I do think that as the time goes on, that in your head, that it's like, oh, I've been okay this long. I think it's like, oh, is it gone or whatever?
Yeah.
But
Keeps coming back.
Yeah. So I do think you get to that point of kind of letting your guard down, but I have the best customers because they know that I could potentially it could really affect me.
Sure.
And if if people get a sore throat, any kind of a symptom, like anything, it could be sinus, but they call out
Yeah,
and they
just
don't
stay
come
away.
in. They stay away. And that wasn't the way it was before COVID. People come in here and they're hacking. And,
Which that's one thing I actually like now.
Yeah,
'cause
me
if
too.
anyone is even roughly sick, like a little bit, they'll tell you, "Oh, I'm not feeling good."
Yes.
Instead of going to church or going out. So I do like that.
Yeah, people would sit in my chair and they'd be, and I was just like, okay, I don't really want to get this, but or it just so that part I love about COVID is that I have, knock on wood, I have not been sick this entire time, and I contributed to hand washing, mask, and them not coming in sick.
Yeah.
So that part's been good.
What is the legacy that you want to leave behind with what you've built, with your life? What is the legacy that when you're all done with this, and Shear Wildness is a thing of the past, or maybe your kids run it, whatever it is? What do you hope that you achieved?
Well, I'd like for them to know that I cared enough to do the best that I could. That everything that I did wasn't about me, but it was about them. And that I tried to be compassionate and maybe more of a friend than just somebody that's standing behind the chair cutting your hair. And so, I tell my girls now, I was like, you got to go the extra mile. You can't just, they don't come in on the book and they kind of suddenly disappear. Find out why they disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, if they don't come back, that's okay. But find out, because if it's something that we have done wrong, that's a learning point. That's something that we can turn around.
Yes.
So I feel like following up, and, I feel like that has to be part of it. And I feel like you can't just be a business in this community without being part of the community.
Oh, that's a great point.
So
Get engaged, get involved.
You have
in the
to
community.
be part of it. I mean, I know now they can't do a whole
Sure.
lot, but when you're out on the baseball field, then you're part of that, and that's you engage with the people there.
I just want to, while you're talking about that, I just want to make a comment because, right now, I'm seeing a lot of businesses, young entrepreneurs. It's different, right?
Right.
It's
probably hard.
In the old days, it was about connection.
Right.
When I look at my parents, my grandparents, and I'm that way, but a lot of newer people, they're not so much. They don't want to talk. They want to text.
Yeah.
But I love that you're saying, if you want to really be a part of it, you've got to get involved in the communities. Come out from behind the computer.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, because I know that's a hard thing for many people, but I agree 100%. Like, the community will take care of you if you take care of it.
Yeah, it scares me that I see people like in the same room texting back and forth instead of raising their head and
Right.
making eye contact
Yeah.
and talking, because I feel like we're losing that human connection. And I think that COVID has brought out the fact that we need it.
Yeah.
We really need to touch somebody. We really need to hug somebody. This phone is not going to hug you back when you are, when grandpa dies or whatever. You need people. And people, that is what we're made for.
Yeah.
God intended us to be a part of something, not a part of a TV or a phone.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you've seen a lot of styles, and we talked a little bit about this when I was in the chair. You've seen. We just got to laugh about this for a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the styles that you've seen. Some of the ridiculous ones to what's coming in the future. What are you seeing out there?
Well, when I first started, it was monumental for a man. It was just the beginning of men infiltrating the women's salons. The barber in the women's salon was the men were starting to merge a little bit because that
Gotcha.
was totally separate. And
So that'll be interesting. All of a sudden, there's men coming
Yeah.
in and it changed the environment.
yeah, it changed the environment. And you know, yeah. And it was some of the women, they were like getting their hair done, and they were a little uncomfortable with men watching them get their hair done because they were not in their perfect state. You know, some of
Gotcha.
these styles, you know, like when you're sitting there with a head full of, you know, foils or whatever, or your eyebrows got, you know, dye on them, you're not probably at your most attractive point, but you know, so but I've lived through when I first came out of school, it was shampoo sets, and just was leaving the lacquer area where you were doing, you know, the big beehives and
wow.
the curls and stuff. It just was kind of trying to come out to just, you know, perms and just weekly sets or whatever. And they found that the lacquer was actually hurting the people's lungs. So I did my first year. I had to take I had to go get my chest X-ray to make sure that the lacquer that I was using, which is hairspray, but it had lacquer in it. So like
scary.
it would just stick that hair together and it would not move. And so, you know, I was doing that, and I was doing men. And I was perming their hair. They were getting
Men's hair?
perms. Yes, they were getting perms.
Oh my.
I remember Mark, my husband, and he got a perm and then left here to get the car inspected. And he was standing in the office, and they were like, "What is that smell?" And Mark was like, "Yeah, what is it?" I mean, because it was him and his perm smell, and he was like, "I'm not giving it up, dude. I'm not going to let you know that it's me." And I just came out of the shop getting a perm. But anyway, that was just kind of fun. And then the 80s, you know, it was
the 80s
the
were
big hair.
teasing
and
hair, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't get big enough hair. And you just permed over top of perm. I mean, now it's all about condition and how beautiful and shiny your hair. Oh, the 80s, your hair could not be shiny because it was dead. I mean, it was dead. It just like stuck out. The things you put on it, and you just permed and permed. And then, you know, we kind of went through where they started to get sleeker, and, you know, you had the Vidal Sassoon, the real sharp cuts and very precision cutting, and you know, I've been through the mullet. Oh my goodness,
I'm
the
sorry.
mullet. The mullet.
Oh, that needs to go away. It's
coming
starting to come back. Yeah, I've
It's
seen it in
coming
Utah.
back. The
It's high
young
school kids, and I'm like,
yeah.
what are you doing? It's not good.
We've cut several, and the men are the boys. The young men. I'm not gonna call them boys, but the young guys in high school and college, they're getting their hair permed again. So everything that I started with is starting to roll back. I'm starting to do that little Farrah Fawcett cut, and you know, the little wing cut, and I'm just like, okay, I've probably come full circle now, and you know, it's just it's funny, but you know, it's really funny. Like if somebody comes in the shop and Kendall or one of the other girls get them, and they're like, "Yeah, I'd like that Farrah Fawcett cut," and they're like, "Farrah Fawcett? I don't even know who she is," you know. And so, anyway, but yeah, there were specific cuts, and you just did them, and I've been through them all, and I feel like that's what happens. It just rotates. You know, you get a little bit different take on the cut or the, you know, the style. It's just, and I mean, I think that even the mullet now is just a little bit more, it's a little bit more classic than, you know, a party, you know, business in the front and party in the back. You know, that just was a little nutty. But, you know, but then, you know, men are starting to take care of like their beard,
that's
their
a big thing
beards,
right now.
and so we're doing, you know, we're educating them how to groom, and the products are coming out groom. That's been really big in the last couple of years when we've gone to the big shows, and that hasn't always been there.
Wow.
So you've got several product lines now besides just, most of the time it was like maybe one or two. The shelves are getting bigger in the beauty supply stores, that more people are getting into that arena because guys are starting to take care of their beard. They want it to grow. They want it to look nice. And so that's kind of something that's going on right now. But
It just keeps going around.
yeah.
Huh? Mm-hmm. What is your plan now? I mean, you brought it up that you in your 60s. I never brought or would have asked, but that is pretty awesome. What is your plan? What's your exit strategy? What do you hope to see with the company?
Right now, because of COVID, I got a real good sense of I don't want to stop. I might be that old lady in here rolling around in a wheelchair. I don't know, but I think I want to keep myself going, because sitting at home, and I like my time at home, and I can find things to do because I'm that person. I don't just sit and watch TV. I am constantly in motion, but I think I want to keep my hands in it as long
as you can,
as my hands don't fail me. I don't want to stay when I can't do it. When things start to go downhill, when I see that my hair cutting or whatever is suffering because of my age, I want to exit gracefully.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And, the salon will become Kendall's. She's going to stay. And, hopefully it'll just keep on. She's got different ideas than I do. So when she takes it, she's probably going to do things differently.
Okay.
I know that when it happens, I need to mentally leave it here and let her do it, and not try to be retired or whatever and telling her what to do.
Yeah,
because I just know that ain't gonna work for either one of us.
Yeah, you'll pass the torch on, and you got to let her do what
I
she's
have
got to do.
I have to do that, and that's like probably gonna be one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sending your kid to college, and they suddenly become adults and they don't need you anymore.
Right.
And this shop, that's all I've had for 40 years. So
Wow.
it's like my child.
Yeah.
And so when that time comes, I probably just, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I feel like it's probably going to be like a death to me. Something that I'm going to have to work through.
You have to mourn it.
Yeah, I have to mourn it, because I'm leaving part of me here.
But how awesome would it be? As you're talking, I'm thinking, man, what if in 40 more years your daughter's running it and someone else comes to interview her? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that
the
would
history
be amazing.
of the history of this place, and what you've created really is just incredible. I think, and I know you could go on with stories after stories of people and seeing the town and being part of the community. But I think in the end, that's the big takeaway. You're not just here cutting hair.
I'm not.
You're part of your history here. It's a history.
Yeah. And, I probably could have done jobs that made tons more money. And, I've done some really big, really important ladies that through the years that have lived here in the community, and, that have traveled all over the world. And, they were like, why are you wasting your talent in Goochland? Why aren't you in New York or Washington or someplace where you can make money?
Big bucks.
Yeah, because you have that skill. I have been all over the world, and you have given me one of the best haircuts for $35 or whatever.
And what's your reply to that question?
And I'm like, because this is my home. This is where my kids are. I want to be part of when they were growing up. Even though I had to work, I wanted to go to the baseball games. I wanted them to be a cheerleader. I wanted to be, on the little league. I didn't want to miss that because they weren't asked to be born. I brought them in this world, and they deserved to have me, not just be this, and so I felt like it gave me a balance, and you can't take money with you, so
Right.
It's not always about money, and I have people, they're like, you can make more money here. Yeah, well, you know what, I don't really care about money. Money doesn't control me. And
the impact that you're making here.
Yeah, I just want to make a living where I can take care of myself.
Yeah.
That's it. It's enough to add to my husband's income, and we had a house, we got a car, and we got 2 healthy kids and 4 healthy grandchildren. I think I did okay.
Yeah, what more could you ask?
I don't need any more.
Yeah.
I got church friends, I've got God, I've got, what do I need else? I don't need money sitting in the bank to tell me I'm successful.
And the difference that you're making here, like you said, when someone walks in the door and you can tell they had a hard time, they need to talk to someone, right? Those moments of impact, they're valuable.
Yeah.
Maybe not financially, but probably more important than financially.
Yeah. Yeah.
My last question, if you were stuck on an island and you could bring one book, one album or CD or record, and one meal, what would you bring?
Well, it's really funny that you asked me this
Why?
question
Why?
because we always say, I always have this thing in here that, I tell the women, I'm like, if you are stuck on an island, grab your lipstick because you can put lipstick on, you can make that your rouge, you could take a little bit off and make it your eyeshadow, and you still look good. So when the boat comes to get you, you still are going to be able to walk out there like the queen you are. So it's really funny that you asked me that question.
Okay. Well, we already know what product you take, a lipstick. That's funny. So book, album, music album, and meal.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of tough.
Yeah.
My life is kind of, I don't know about that. I'd probably take my Bible.
Okay.
That would be number 1 because I feel like without it, I wouldn't be as close to God. And you would be someplace that you didn't have anybody feeding into you. So I would need God feeding into me, and I could do that through His Word.
Gotcha.
And an album, I think maybe Thriller for Michael Jackson.
Wow. That's such a great album, great song, great everything.
Yes, I think Thriller, first of all, because it's got special meaning to me, and we love, obviously I grew up the same age as Michael Jackson and Donnie, and David Cassidy.
Yeah.
All of them, they were a little bit of a heartthrob. But when I was pregnant the first time with Kendall, Thriller just came out, and my husband and I were practicing breathing because we were going to do Le Mans, which let me tell you, people, just get the shot. And so we were practicing Le Mans, and I'm just sitting there, and he is doing the moonwalk to Michael Jackson, and I am just like, dude, when can I stop breathing? And he's like, but he had a mirror down there and trying to practice his little moonwalk across, and he just forgot all about me on the floor, just huffing and puffing away. And I was just like, okay. So I would have to say Michael Jackson, Thriller.
That was a great story. Oh my gosh.
Just because that holds that memory, and that would bring my family with me there, because that would give me, that comfort.
By the way, that's my favorite. Well, not to throw anyone on the bus, but that might be my favorite reply to that question. That was amazing. Okay.
And then food. Well, I have some funny stories about food. So, when we lived in New York, we grew all of our food, and we raised all of our food. So when you opened up the picture window, there was nothing. It wasn't surprising to see a hog hanging in the window, or upside down bleeding out, or whatever. So, and then we raised 200 chicken and 25 turkeys every single year.
Oh.
And then every weekend would be slaughter weekend. And with that being said, it is really hard for me to go back to that chicken thing,
Yeah.
And I always tell my grandkids, I was like, Dee Dee could never make it, because my father would always say, my job was always picking out the pin feathers, and I did everything in the world, because I don't know if you've ever plucked a chicken or whatever, after you've put it in that water, and you cut the head off and you put it in that hot water, the smell of that.
Pretty bad.
Oh yeah. And then I would have to sit there and pull those feathers off. And then the pin feathers were just so hard. But I tried everything. I tried pliers, I tried gloves, everything to not touch that chicken. And, eventually my dad would be like, Deborah, which was when I hear Deborah, I know.
That's serious.
He would. He's like, if you don't pick those pin feathers, you're gonna get a spanking. And I told my grandkids, Lord, I was like, just give me the spanking and let this be over, because I cannot do this. So, it's not saying that I don't like chicken, but no, I wouldn't take a chicken with me. That is for daggone sure, because Debbie is not picking those pin feathers. She's not cutting the head off. She's I'd have to take, maybe a to-go bag, because no, Debbie doesn't do that. No, I just can't do it.
So anything but chicken.
So I might just grow me some lettuce and onions and,
have a salad.
Because yeah, I could live without meat. I'll tell you, my favorite food is potatoes. So if I had, a bucket and put some dirt in it, I could probably grow a potato and be just fine for the rest of my life. Because awesome. My mother used to have us eat raw potato with salt and pepper on it, and I was good. But don't give me that chicken.
Keep that thing away.
Keep that away.
Oh man, that's nasty.
Yes, it is.
Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate my time here at the salon. Just some really cool stuff. But again, I just love I love that it's really about this company, this space. It's about the space, and it's about you and who you are. It's like the salon is an extension of who you are.
Yeah.
You care about people.
I do.
You want it to be fun. It's part of the community, and that's kind of what you've built. And I think, and I think there's a lot of great lessons here. But I love it. Just get involved and care about the people. You can't go wrong building a company that way.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think it's universal.
Yeah.
If
regardless
you care
of
about
industry.
people, and you can talk to people, and as long as you can engage with a person, you can build a company.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing that has to happen in any situation, in any company, you have to have trust in the person that's either selling you something, or that trust, and you cannot break that bond. So it's about they trust me. They trust that when they come in, that I'm not going to mess their hair up.
Right.
I can say no to the picture that they bring me off Pinterest and say,
That's not gonna
just
work for
not
you."
going to work for you,
Yeah.
or whatever. So we do that. We're real honest.
Well, you guys have heard it from the woman herself, and I would listen to her. She's been doing it for over 40 years. That's an impressive. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I hope that this place just continues. And like you said, when that time comes, I hope that it goes. I'd love to hear in 30 years that this
Yeah.
place is still running and still.
Well, come
being
back.
Yeah, well, we will. My aunt's in here, so
Yeah, so
now I
you're
have a
right
reason.
here. Yeah, come
So
back.
anybody who's in the area, we're gonna put links to the website here, and so please come back. And you've heard the story from her, so if you would like to experience her and get your hair cut, come on down. But again, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Company Next Door.